believe we are live. Is that true? Yes, we should be live now. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our press conference about DNS4EU. We are really happy that you found time to listen what we have to say about this project, which is a big success for Whalebone, and we believe it's a great project of the European Union. Without further ado, let me introduce our today's speakers to you. Also, before we started, please feel free to ask any questions in the chat. We will address them later on. Okay, so just ask whenever you want to, and we will get to that. But the press conference itself will start with, let's say, short perspectives of our three speakers who all participated on preparation of the project. So it's Richard Malovič, who is the CEO of Whalebone.
Hello, good morning.
Then it's Robert Šefr, and he's a CTO of Whalebone.
Good morning.
And Petr Soukeník, who's a project preparation coordinator for DNS4EU.
Hi, it's great to have you here all.
Okay, so let's start. I would like to ask Richard Malovič to start with his short speech.
Hello, let me start with why. Why is this all happening? So the European Commission seeks to boost European digital sovereignty, digital infrastructure, and security. And the DNS resolution service and related security and infrastructure has been identified as a key element. So the European Commission considers DNS as a critical service infrastructure and believes that it is currently not available at the European level with the necessary level of performance, resilience, security, and privacy. So as a consequence, European Commission wants to push private market and wants to support investment into building such an infrastructure because of a deemed lack of business case. So before we go into the details, let me recap shortly what is DNS, or better say DNS resolution. So it's the process of translating IP addresses into domain names. It's a vital process that is necessary for internet connection. Today, on the biggest scale, this process is usually rendered by mobile network operators and fixed internet providers. In some cases, tech giants like Google, IBM, or Cloudflare provide this service and are via rendering so-called public resolvers. If the person wants, it can do individual settings on its hardware, and instead of using this part of the infrastructure of the internet providers, it can use the infrastructure of these companies providing the DNS resolution service. Today, a single-digit percentage of the internet traffic in Europe is handled by these alternative resolvers rendered by Google, IBM, Cloudflare, and Co. And this is also the part of the infrastructure that the European Commission seeks to diversify and strengthen the digital sovereignty of the continent. So by supporting a new EU-based public resolver, the European Commission also declares to push the newly established service, especially to public and governmental organizations, make this solution an officially recommended one, and also boosts and asks the tenderers to introduce further premium services to the public and private sector on top of the public resolvers. For example, enhanced security, parental control, etc. So why and what is actually the motivation of us, Whalebone, and our entire consortium? Well, first of all, providing a publicly accessible service such as DNS4EU that adheres to the top tech standards and top European privacy and security standards, and a possibility to contribute to European digital infrastructure is a great honor for us. I speak for everyone in our consortium. We feel and we really adhere to Europe, to United Europe. So it's a great honor, and therefore we designed also the service to be able to fulfill its target to onboard 100 million people within the next few years. Our consortium includes 13 private and public companies from 10 European countries. The consortium is led by Whalebone. In the deep of our heart, we are convinced that services have to be sustainable and financed by the private and free market. So therefore, we're actually very happy that one of the evaluation criteria for selection of the right tenderer was presenting a bid and business case that does not need public top-down money in long term. So what is actually the model of sustainability? So the DNS4EU will consist of 4 main pillars. One is a publicly accessible cloud resolver with multiple IP addresses. The other one is an on-premise resolver that will be made available to the networks of mobile network operators and internet service providers. And these two, or this one, the on-premise one, will share the same IP address with the publicly accessible cloud resolver. As number 3, a platform for exchange of local threat intelligence from various respective European countries, kind of a cyber threat emergency internet traffic platform is going to emerge. And premium services for public, private, and mobile network and ISPs will be put on top of the open public resolvers. The project goes in phases. We will start with a limited first version and granting early access to the public and operators already this year. The entire rollout plan is for 3 years.
Thank you, Richard. And we can move on now. And I would like to ask Petr Soukeník, the project preparation coordinator, to share his perspective on the project with us.
Thank you, Andrew, and good morning, everyone, once again. And it's my pleasure to be here and to present you. And actually, I want to focus on how we did it all, like what was the preparation, what was the vision behind, and what were the formal steps. And I have also one invitation for you. So first of all, let me start with why we have formed the consortium from my perspective. The reason was that we have clear belief in the idea of DNS4EU. We see it as positive project, and we believe we have the vision how to make the project meaningful, sustainable, and cost-effective. The main reason actually is that Whalebone has very similar solution already that is trusted and used all around the world, and we know that it's very easy to take it and to make a DNS4EU based on it. Due to that, we are able to go over the expectations of European Commission, and one of the visions is, for example, to prepare a platform for sharing the threat intelligence across the actors interested in this. So how it went everything? First of all, when we heard about the project, we've had a couple of consultations with stakeholders, with potential consortium partners, with competitors, and especially with the representatives of the professional community. And it all resulted in the vision, or in the confirmation of our vision, with the way how we want to make the solutions long-term viable is a proper way to go. And it was confirmed, for example, by more than 80 letters of support from 18 European countries. So we started working on this, and it was submitted in April. And since we have submitted it, we were waiting what will happen. And then on the December the 2nd, European Commission, or better to say HADEA, invited us to negotiate the grant agreement. And this is one very interesting finding for newspapers here, maybe. We probably made the European record in how fast we were able to negotiate the grant agreement. It was just in 14 days from the initial kickoff to the signed grant agreement. So I want to thank all the involved parties, including the consortium members, the issuers of letter of support, and also to national self-contact points that were able to provide us member states approvals, and especially to HADA, who was able to guide us through the process and to help us to make this European record. How we have composed the consortium. The main idea was to make it cross-disciplinary, to make a balance of commercial and non-commercial partners, and to have a distributed regional representations. It resulted in a consortium that is having 9 beneficiaries and 4 associated partners from 10 European countries. So as I can see many people from various countries here, let me name the partners in the consortium. So the beneficiaries are Abilab, or Financial Cert from Italy, NASK, Cert from Polska, from Poland, CZNIC, Czech Technical University, and Whalebone from the Czech Republic, DSEC from Germany, National Cybersecurity Security Directorate of Romania, and Staki, Cert Hungary, from Hungary, and Timelex from Belgium. We have also, as mentioned, 4 associated partners, Centro Nacional de Cibersegurança from Portugal, CESNET from Czech Republic, F-Secure from Finland, and the Ministry of Electronic Governments from Bulgaria. To sum it up, our consortium represents providers of DNS services, law and data privacy expert, academic research, and entities overseeing the national EU internet landscape and cybersecurity of internet. And I have promised you to share one invitation. A part of the consortium is the stakeholders group. The stakeholder group will actually form a platform where we want to share the findings from DNS4EU, where we want to get the feedback, where we want to involve all the actors interested in DNS4EU to be able to share, to get the outputs, and to make the solution quite like something what we will based on the community wisdom and knowledge. So if you are interested in this, please feel free to ask us or to contact us at the DNS4EU at whalebone.io and join us in the stakeholders group. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Peter. Once again, just a reminder, feel free to ask questions in the chat. We're already getting quite a lot. So I will just, like in real time, go through them and try to put them together in some logical order. But feel free to ask them right now. And now I would like to ask the CTO of Whalebone, Robert Šefr, to give us the technical perspective on the project.
Thank you. I'll look in multiple aspects of the project. I'll start with the architecture and how I would define the architecture of DNS4EU is it will be very strongly distributed. Yeah, so of course there will be a publicly accessible set of resolvers and nodes of DNS resolvers hosted throughout Europe to achieve low latency and the distribution of the traffic. But we will focus on also the private instances hosted in the ISP and telco networks directly to keep most of the traffic processed at that site, because that will achieve the lowest possible latency, as the resolver nodes will be as close to the clients as possible. It will deliver very high resilience and basically the independence of the individual tenants of the DNS4EU, as they will be independent and they will not be publicly target or it will not be able for some of the actors to publicly target them with any kind of DDoS ethics, etc. and it will align with the modern architectures of the telco networks and of the DNS resolution, especially speaking of things like 5G and edge services, as we will be able to deliver the DNS resolvers to the very edge, and to make the clients enjoy all the optimizations delivered via the edge data centers. Speaking of CDS, video delivery, audio streaming, gaming, etc., etc. So we will not circumvent these optimizations in the telco networks. On the opposite, we will align with them. Speaking of the second area, a very important area for the whole DNS4EU, the security, we have a great advantage here with DNS4EU that it's very clear. The focus of the project is very clear. The focus is all the member states of EU, and we will focus on each member state in a way that we will go to the roots and we will identify the malicious campaigns localized only in those countries, and we will make sure that DNS4EU is able to protect the citizens. How we would like to achieve it? We will partner up first of all with the local CSERTs and CERTs, and directly partner up with the commercial subjects such as like financial institutions, banks, parcel delivery services that are frequently targeted with localized phishing campaigns, and also with the government that in some cases also the governmental organizations are being targeted. And we will directly process and ingest the information about those malicious campaigns, and will protect immediately all the DNS4EU users against those. And this is we are sure a huge advantage over other services and also over other security services. The consortium is very strong in research area as well, so we will definitely work with the anonymized DNS data that we will observe on the DNS4EU for the research in the security field, and the results of the security research and the discovered malicious campaigns, phishing, malware, etc., will be immediately contributed back to the DNS4EU for protection of all the users using the service. Another area I would like to mention here is the privacy and the GDPR compliance. Speaking of EU, so just to be clear, all the data centers and all the computing, everything will happen inside EU with cooperation of European-based entities. We will do the data anonymization, and the whole process and the whole design of the privacy will be audited to make it 100% sure that the data are only used for the security research and are not used for any other purposes. Last thing I would like to mention here, the European Commission wants the DNS4EU to be compliant with national legislation. So all the users from individual countries we will apply the compliance with the local legislation requirements. Speaking of some very specific restrictions and blacklists that are applied in the individual countries, most of the countries across EU have some minor limited blacklists of some services that should not be accessible from the country, and usually this is enforced in cooperation with the internet service providers and telcos, and we will align with this legislation as well. Okay. So that's from my side. I'm looking forward to the questions.
All right. Thank you, Robert. Let's get into it. We can start with the first question already for Richard Malovič. So, Richard, can you elaborate in which will be the premium services that will be charged?
Thank you very much for the question. So, when it comes to the premium services, I can divide them into 4 or 5 layers. So, on top of the public resolvers available both to the general public and to the operators, and also the related threat intelligence that will be available to some extent via the platform basic access. There will be premium services that are when it comes to the operators and to the institutions that are related to the more advanced security layers and integration to the already existing services. So more kind of an SLA automation and integration compared to the publicly accessible version. That's number one. And when it comes to the general public services, there will be also an app providing more options for a private person how to deal with its traffic, not only when it comes to security, but also to content control, like parental control, ad block, etc. This will be also made available to the operators. Last but not least is the threat intelligence platform delivered with a focus of delivering fast emergency local threats that will be again available both in a limited version and in a more advanced version for private sector and integration to its current services.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Richard. We have another question that's actually quite similar, but just to make sure we address it. It's again for Richard. How will the threat intelligence service work? Will it be freely provided to telcos to also protect telco customers as well, or will it be a premium service?
Mm-hmm. There will be both. So to some extent, it will be provided in the public service, and to some extent, it will be part of the premium services.
And we have another question that's partially connected to this. And it's an ethical question. If charging for premium services, right, like sharing threat intelligence, like that it's a premium service, is it ethical to charge for something that could protect more European citizens when European Union paid for that? So if you could a bit, just slightly, Richard, elaborate on to what extent did the EU pay for that, and if it is ethical to charge for threat intelligence of such a project.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. So the vision of the European Commission and of the proposal is to support and boost this kind of service and to kick it off. So one of the evaluation criteria and one of the key decision criteria was to present in long term a model that is self-sustainable and financed by the private markets. So as Whalebone is a private for-profit company, this is a very good match because we believe there is enough market potential to provide monetized services on top of DNS. And at the same time, as we want to protect 1 billion people worldwide, this is a fantastic option how to provide a public and free accessible service to a large portion of Europeans. So we believe actually in both, and we believe that the public good can be financed by private sector, by monetized services as well.
Okay, let's leave the topic of these premium services for a bit now, please. There's another question for Petr Soukeník. How will you deal with court rulings, and how will local filter demands like blocking lists from one country be dealt with? As in, will we be able to have country-based versions? And could a filter-heavy DNS service drive people away from the service?
Thanks, Andrew. And actually, that's a pretty technical question. So I will later ask Robert to complete it. But basically, it's very easy. We do it already. We provide it on the country-based level, and the geolocation of IP will be the way how to solve it. So, Robert, if you want to extend it, please do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to add maybe to to the filter-heavy DNS service. What the vision is that we will focus on filtering the security threat, which is actually a value for the end user. Regarding the local legislation, I mean, the filtering happens on the local telcos, local ISPs at the moment as well. So there will be nothing new introduced or nothing on top that we would like to enforce. Yeah, so we are not worried about this part.
Now, for Robert Šefr, we also have more threat intelligence related questions. So, will you mainly focus on phishing, or will you also block C2 malware infiltration and data exfiltration?
Mm-hmm. We definitely don't look into the phishing only. So we focus on, speaking of malware, we focus on the whole life cycle. We focus on the actual infection phase, on the C2 communication, and the later stages, which can include the exfiltration of the data, and that's related to malware. Speaking of phishing and scam, the life cycle is a bit different, but we cover them as well. What we see, and I have mentioned phishing especially because the phishing they have, the phishing campaigns, they have the most of the local instances that we would like to focus as well. But you can be 100% sure we will focus phishing and malware and other malicious incidents that can happen and that can be visible on the DNS layer.
All right, thank you. There's one related question because you talked about domain generation algorithms briefly. If you could very, very briefly please address the next question. What technology do you have to recognize DGA? Robert, please.
Multiple layers of machine learning, and an automated option to recognize also the unknown DGAs. This will be part of the DNS4EU as well.
Right, thank you. Let's get to another topic, which is a bit more complicated and theoretical. And I will ask Richard for the answer. Is it possible down the line, which means later on, that DNS4EU becomes mandatory, say, for public administrations and/or critical infrastructure?
Thank you very much for the question. I believe that some of the countries or other institutions or other regulations may at some point issue a regulation what kind of DNS resolvers shall be used by the organizations and issue some critical parameters and characteristics of such a DNS resolution. I don't believe that someone is going to directly say that it is mandatory to use one specific resolver, as this would be against free market.
Mm-hmm. I would also like to ask if we can do, let's say, a round, because there are multiple kind of similar questions about this potential of censorship, or if this will not be used as a tool by the European Union for censorship or for more control over the internet of European Union users. So let's try to approach this more widely, because there are a lot of specific questions coming in. If you guys could one by one comment on this censorship issue. Robert Šefr, could you please start?
Okay, just very briefly. First of all, any user of the DNS4EU is using the resolver like freely, so there is no enforcement. Yeah. Second of all, our aim is to build a successful service, that is actually popular and that brings value to the users. And introducing any kind of censorship doesn't make sense in this for this aim. Plus, just to be completely clear, no governmental body, no European Union body has any control over what is configured on the DNS4EU. It's solely under the consortium responsibility.
Petr, Soukeník, can you please follow up?
Yeah, sure. Like that's a very common area of concerns about DNS4EU, and I want to stress really that the legislation what will be issued will not cover only DNS4EU, but basically it will cover every provider of the DNS resolution. So there is no particular way how like DNS4EU would be able to become a solution for censorship. There's a second thing, and second point I want to stress is like there are many people who understand DNS4EU as something bad, but please try to think about it as something positive. It will not be obligatory, I expect. It will be just like something you are able to start using, and it will bring very interesting features like faster internet, more safer internet, but also high data privacy for all of the users. So in the case you will start using it, you can be sure that your data will not be passed to the other countries out of the European Union, and that somebody will be, for example, make a profiling of you and will start serving you with advertisements and so on. So this is the main thing of DNS4EU. And the second thing is this will bring something what will make the Europe not dependent on the countries out of the European Union. So I believe that during the deployment of the project and during the usage, you will make sure that it will not be kind of like a devil's instrument, but it will be something what will bring the value to European citizens.
Thank you. Richard, do you have something to add at this point?
I mean, from the legal perspective, it is important to underline that the ownership of the service and of the infrastructure stays with the bidders and with the tender. So it is not transferred to any public institution at all. So the ownership of the service as such stays and will stay private, and this is a condition of the entire project. So and that moves the entire topic into, from a legal perspective, into a sphere that's comparable to basically any internet provider or any similar service being provided on the continent and to the citizens of the continent. So I don't see any way how this can be directly used to introduce censorship.
Okay, and one more question is more about, let's say, data privacy. I would like to ask Robert Šefr to answer this one. Will it be possible that local law enforcement gets access to DNS queries from certain persons?
Simply no, because no logs linked to particular persons' IP addresses will be stored. So even if we got such a request, we will not be able to fulfill.
Okay, thank you. Now I will have a more, let's say, question that's a bit less technical to relax for a bit, and I would like to ask Richard Malovič, in broad terms, if you could explain what DNS4EU means for ordinary EU citizens.
Thank you very much, and that's the most important thing. So first of all, it means faster, more secure, and more private internet and internet surfing. So that's main topic: better internet for Europeans.
Right. Thank you, Richard. There's a lot going on. I'm sorry. There are a couple of questions for Robert Šefr about the threat intelligence. So I will just read through them, Robert. So please bear with me. Who is going to provide the threat intelligence? Do you envision to run some scans or machine learning yourselves?
It's a combination of our research, of the research of the consortium, and of external threat intelligence providers, which can change over the time. Yeah, so we will not publish any of those. We will look for the best ones.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And another question that is actually here a couple of times. Will Whalebone or the consortium share any kind of data that it will get, from this project with European or international academic community for research? And this is another question for Robert Šefr, please.
Mm-hmm. I cannot tell at this time. This will be the part that we would like to design during the evaluations. Speaking of the privacy and legal aspects, yeah. So we will be thinking about this and we will be deciding. I would like to, but this will be decided in the course of the project.
I want to add here one point, and this point is again to repeat the invitation to stakeholders group. In the case if anyone is interested in this kind of topics, like will it do this, and this, join us. Go to stakeholders group and let's speak together.
Sure. Thank you, guys. There's another question relevant for ISPs and telcos. I would like to ask Petr Soukeník to address this. How can ISPs and telcos engage with the DNS4EU project? So if they want to, how can they engage with this?
That's very easy. They will be able to use either the cloud-based service or, and I expect it will be for more common, the on-premise service, and they can replace their current resolvers or make it as like a second part of the DNS resolution in their network, and they can start operating it. It will be like some of the services for free, some of the services will be paid, but based on the experience from the current Whalebone solutions, what we do is improving the networks, is bringing them peace of mind in the way of like solving the DNS issues. It's bringing them better latency in the network. It's eliminating the malware traffic, including every kind of malwares like command and control centers and so on. There was a question also for this. So basically, they are able to start using it. They are able to replace the DNS resolvers or to use it as a second alternative resolver in their networks.
All right, thank you. And we have one more question about content blocking. Good morning. Can you clarify how the content blocking is going to be regulated? Who is deciding what is going to be blocked? I would like to ask Richard to address this. So how the content blocking is going to be regulated and who is deciding what is going to be blocked?
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. So first of all, we are going to follow national legislations. So if any particular national law requires some content filtering, definitely those who will be accessing from that country will be subject to law as today. So that's first of all, it is decided by law. Yeah. And second of all, on speaking about, for instance, some parental control topics, etc., the user itself will decide about what should be blocked, filtered, and what should not be filtered.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Richard. Now we have a question for Robert Šefr. Would DNS4EU infrastructure contain authoritative servers for .eu zone?
Very good question. Thanks for that. To make it completely clear, DNS4EU is a project that only aims at DNS resolution. It doesn't do anything with the authoritative DNS space. So no, there will be no authoritative servers for EU zone, and there will be no other authoritative DNS servers for anything. It's just DNS resolution.
And we have another question for Robert Šefr. There's a lot of technical people here today, which is good. Do you have a blocked domain false positive escalation process for users to get more information or on what has been blocked?
Yes, we do. First of all, we believe that we should be ahead of the users in the false positives. So we are monitoring like any suspect for false positives. If we don't catch any false positive in a timely manner, there is an escalation process for the user. Plus, there is an option for the user to bypass the filtering if they need. Yeah, so they don't even have to wait for us; they can bypass immediately.
Now we have a question for Richard. Will the implementation of the system require legislative changes in EU countries?
Thank you very much for the question. No legislation changes are required.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see. We really have lots of questions, and there's only so much time. So, what would you charge for premium services, Richard? Can you answer this in some way?
So as this is a private market, we will definitely do a market research. We will ask and speak with the relevant market players and set the pricing affordable for basically any institution applying to.
There's another tech question about let's say the architecture. Robert, how can you deliver a bypass service button to click to bypass on HTTPS? Okay, sorry, I'm just not sure. This is so much connected to DNS4EU, so if you can briefly address this.
Yeah, I mean that's tricky, but we have also other ways for the user how he is able to set up some exceptions. Yeah, but HTTPS is definitely tricky.
There's another end user oriented question. So, will there be a user-friendly way to redirect the DNS traffic to DNS4EU, even if they aren't, like tech savvy, if they don't know so much about computers? This is a question for Robert Šefr too.
For the very end customers, we will provide documentations and either prepared configurations or applications that will make this redirection for them. Yeah, so we will also aim for these non-tech savvy users.
Thank you. Now I have a question for Petr Soukeník. I know this will not be, there is no very easy answer, but if you could try to briefly comment on this. What is the key differentiator from competitive offerings such as OpenDNS?
Depends on the perspective. If you approach it from the technical one or from the policy one, from the policy one, it will be European solution. There will be no data passed out of the European Union. From the technical one, the main difference will be what, in the case typical enterprise or institution or ISP will decide to have the solution as on-premise. They can have it as standard full-fledged on-premise DNS resolver in the network, so there is no need to communicate with the cloud DNS resolvers.
We have another question that's about the business model. So, but I would like to ask Robert Šefr about it anyway. So, will all important DNS variants be available for free of charge, like DNS 5.4, DOT, DOH, DOQ, DNSSEC, or will any such variants be charged?
They will be available for free of charge. Speaking of DOQ, that's not like fully standardized yet, but we expect that throughout the course of the project, it will be provided and finished and provided as well. So yes.
And one more question is about ad blocking, which is something that I believe Richard briefly mentioned. So Richard, if you could address this one. Will ad blocking not interfere with commercial parties such as Samsung or Google? They do thousands of queries per day, for instance, from smart TVs.
Thank you very much for that question. As previously also described, the content filtering will be a decision of individual users and individual people. So if they like to use such a feature, they will have this option to go for it, similar to the other services. They would like to manipulate their traffic if they like to.
Thank you, Richard. We're already 2 minutes late, but let's try to address the last 2 questions. Okay, so this one is for Petr Soukeník. Will DNS4EU be operated by Whalebone solely, or will there be any other partners who operate DNS servers in different countries of Europe? Will private instances in ISP networks be also operated by Whalebone in the same manner as I can operate root DNS in different networks, or it will be organized in any other way?
First of all, I want to start from the end of the question, and I again want to remind that the Whalebone, or better to say DNS4EU, will provide only recursive DNS resolution. So the on-premise DNS resolvers can basically be placed everywhere, so everyone can take it and to start offering it. From the Whalebone perspective or the consortium perspective, we will provide a cloud-based DNS resolver, so it will be in multiple destinations across the Europe. But again, the hybrid architecture of the solution will allow everyone to operate its own part of the DNS4EU.
Thanks a lot, Petr. And now there's the last question, but please, if you have any questions, any extra questions, feel free to reach out to us on, for example, on an email, dns4eu@whalebone.io. I'm sorry we couldn't address all the questions. There are quite a lot of you, and they just keep coming. So this one is, how this could be a choice of individual users if you don't correlate IP with any subscriber ID? This is a question for Robert.
For example, the users addressing a particular different destination IP addresses. Yeah, to add for the ones that would like to enjoy the premium services, there would definitely be some kind of like subscription included, where they will be able to provide information how they expect that resolver will behave towards their traffic.
Thanks a lot, Robert. So we're 5 minutes over the limit. I hope we addressed most of your questions, and I believe you really at least touched most of the topics that were present in all these questions. So once again, thank you all for coming, for finding time to attend our press conference. I would also like to thank our speakers again, which is the CEO of Whalebone, Richard Malovič, CTO of Whalebone, Robert Šefr, and the project preparation coordinator of DNS4EU, Petr Soukeník. Once again, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. We will gladly answer them. And have a nice day. Thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.